Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I wanted to do my makeup brush collection and show you guys how I use each one of those makeup brushes. I have a lot of brushes here. They're all different brands, they're all different types. They all do different things. So if that was something you would like to see, then just keep watching. A lot of the brushes that I have are from pretty much the same brand. I will link everything in the description box below, but most of my brushes are from Morphe. It's spelled M-O-R-P-H-E. So if you just go to their website, I think it's morphebrushes.com, you can purchase these. A lot of the brushes that I have did come from like a brush set, so I don't necessarily use every single one of these brushes like on a daily basis, but they are just good to have around, especially if you are a freelance artist and you like to do other people's makeup. You'll find yourself using brushes that you don't normally use on yourself, on clients. So extra brushes are always really good to have around. So I'm going to start out with this brush here. The reason I'm going to start out with this brush is because this is one of my most unique brushes, because it is actually a real human hair brush. It's broken. I need to glue it back together. So this one is actually a real human haired brush. These are probably going to be hard to see the consistencies and like the texture, like how they feel, but I'll try to explain it. It's a big fluffy round brush. This would be something that you would want to use for powder, possibly bronzer. Just something you want to use this for, something that you want it to disperse it very lightly. It's going to give you a really natural type of finish. And I do like these brushes, although they aren't my favorite, but this one is actually from the brand Bella Pierre Cosmetics. They have a lot of these, this brand in kiosks around the mall. The next brush I'm going to show you, it's the same brand, this one. It's just, you can see that this one is tapered. Also, real human hair. Same brand as the one that I just showed you, but here's you can see a comparison. So this one I would like to use maybe something for contouring your cheeks, just something that you want to get a really nice line. Again, it's going to disperse your product very loosely. It's going to disperse it very finely. It's one of those things where you can dip it in something and kind of go like this, tap it off, and it's not going to leave you with a big stripe on your cheek, or it's not gonna pick up a lot of product, is basically what I'm trying to say. My next brush here, it's almost an oval brush. I do believe this is goat hair. If you are interested on what type of brush it is, you can go to the website and look it up. This video would be really long if I just told you what every single one was. This one I would like to use, I actually use this one for blush. I don't believe it's made for a blush. It's a little bit more, it's more coarse than a human hair, and also more coarse than a synthetic brush. So this one I would like to maybe use for blush on the cheeks. You could use it for contouring. Again, from the same brand, and actually the same brush line, the same kit. I have this one. This one is a little bit more tapered than the last one that I just showed you. I use this brush this is actually one of my favorite contour brushes. I really like these tapered ones to put my contour on. To me, one of the coolest thing about makeup brushes is that you can really use it for whatever you want. Just because it says it's made for something doesn't mean you have to use it for that. And it's funny because a lot of the brushes that are supposed to be used for a certain something, I don't use them in that way. So just be creative, just pick up a brush. If you think it looks like it's gonna work, it probably will. And so yeah, so I don't think that this is actually even technically a contour brush, but it's what I use it for. This one is kind of an interesting brush. It is something that I actually do use a lot, which is funny because it's just a really weird brush. So as you can see, it's just a very flat topped brush. Very, very small bristles. Again, from that same brand, Morphe. And what I like to use this for is after I've done my contour and my blush, sometimes it can get messy around here and it can start dragging down, and you just want it to be kind of a clean line. So I'll dip this into my loose powder and I'll just stamp a line all the way down my cheekbone and then just clean it off with a bigger, fluffier brush. And it really just defines that line for me. So really that's all I ever use this brush for. I'm sure you could find other things to use it for, but that's just what I personally like it for. My next brush, again, is one of those things that it's for something, but it's not what I use it for. So this one is called a duo fiber brush. It's a smaller, rounded brush, again from that same brand, Morphe. And the reason it's called a duo fiber is because it starts thinning out and has these really finely dispersed bristles. A funny way to describe it is almost like a wispy eyelash. You know how it has like longer ones and then thinner ones in between? That's kind of how this is. So a lot of people like duo fiber brushes for putting on foundation with. If you like a really light, natural coverage, it's not gonna, it's gonna very finely put your product on. I don't like that for foundation because I feel like it doesn't give me enough coverage. I like a medium to full type of coverage, so I don't use these for foundation, but I love duo fiber brushes for blush. It just makes it look a lot more natural because it is a duo fiber. Well, my next brush is probably actually my most favorite brush out of my entire collection. I love it for highlight. So you can see it it has like a really long tapered bristle. Like to me, I couldn't use that for like an eyeshadow. That's just like way too big for an eyeshadow. So it's like so perfect for highlight because it's like nice and dainty that you can just like dip it in your highlight, get it right up here on your cheeks, and because it does come into that fine point, you can get underneath your brow bone, you get your little nose, and it just does it so perfectly without it being too much. I find that brushes like this, which are made for highlight, like the fan brushes, I just don't like how they put my highlight on. Personally, I don't ever use this on myself. I do have it in my kit for like if people just want like a really, really subtle highlight. These are really good, but I don't like subtle highlight, and I can't get a fan brush to put my highlight on nicely, making it look natural, but not to the point where you just like can't see it. So here's a fan brush if you want like a lighter wash of highlight. This one is actually from Sephora. This one is Pro Fan 65. The next brush I'm going to pick up is pretty much this is another Morphe brush as well. This one is pretty much my everyday powder brush. To me, it's so perfect. It's just like the right size. It feels nice on my face. You can use loose powders, you can use pressed powders, whatever you want. I feel like this just works really, really well for powders. Then I have this brush. This is another brush from Morphe. This one's kind of hard to tell the shape of it. Like looking at it on camera, I can see you can't really tell. But if I just want a really subtle contour or just like a bronzed up look, I'll use this brush because it's thin. Again, I can just kind of get right in here in my cheeks. I feel like this brush in particular doesn't really pick up a ton of product, so you're not going to get really harsh lines, where for like maybe this brush that I showed you earlier that I also really like for my contour, which is tapered, this is going to pick up a lot more initially. These bristles are a little bit more coarse compared to this one. It's just a lot more like light and fluffy. So that's kind of the comparison with those two types of brushes. This next brush has shorter bristles. It's a smaller type of round brush. Again, it's from the brand Morphe. And this one, I used to use this one a lot for, you know, contouring, blush, just any of those types of things, because I like it because it's really small and it gives you a lot of control. It will, if you do use it for contour or blush, it's one of those things that you're just gonna kind of have to sit there and blend out because it is such a small brush, but it really is a really nice universal brush. You can kind of just use this for anything you want. Honestly, you could even use it for your highlight. I used to use this one for my highlight, but over time you find brushes that work better for what you're trying to use them for. So another brush, which is actually why I showed the first one, looks almost identical to the one I just showed you, except for this one is tapered. So because this one is tapered, again, it's really nice to get into certain points. So this one I actually use pretty much every day. This is what I pick my bronzer up with. I make my fishy face to find my cheeks, and I stick it right on that line and give myself an initial line to go by, blend it out with this, and then I'll go back in with one of the other brushes that I was telling you I really liked contour for. I'll either go in with this one or this one to kind of buff it out, to blend it in and make it look more natural. But to initially put it on, I really like a tapered brush like this. Next little bundle I'm gonna go to are like my favorite eye brushes, like my eyeshadow brushes. All of these except for two of them are from the brand Morphe, so I'll show you the ones that aren't from Morphe first. This first one is just a synthetic flat shader brush. So this is really nice for packing product on the lid. If you want a shimmery shade, a matte shade, whatever it is that you're looking for, you just dip it into your product and pat it on the lid. And this is going to really pick up a lot of your product. This next brush is from the brand Anastasia Beverly Hills. It came in my Modern Renaissance palette. It's one of my favorite brushes because it's a double-ended brush. So right here you have a nice, I call it like a medium-sized tapered blending eyeshadow brush, and then a flat shader brush on the other end. So you kind of have the best of both worlds. You can pick up, you know, shimmer, whatever type of product you want, pack it on your lid, blend out a nice crease shade with this one, and it's just a nice 2-in-1. This is the brush that I like to use when I am putting in my transition shade. So the reason I like this one for my transition shade is because it's probably the biggest of all of the eyeshadow brushes in the fact that it's fluffy, it's tapered, the bristles are pretty long. So the reason that I really like this for a transition shade is because it's going to really blend your shadows nicely. It's going to disperse it evenly. So yeah, I really like this for the transition shade, or also for after I've done most of my eyeshadows, I'll go back in with this initial brush and kind of just blend over everything to just give it a really nice diffused look. Because it is so fluffy and large, it blends really well. This next brush is in the same family, and it's just a hair tinier than the brush from before. I will show it next to the other one in comparison so you can see the size difference. I would like this for, if I go in with this one with my transition shade, I'll pick up this one next with my next darker color so that my brush isn't so large. I can get beneath it. I can get into this one with my crease. It's a really nice medium size eyeshadow blending brush. And then this is my smaller one in that same family. All came from the same brush set from Morphe. Again, it's just a smaller brush. Here's a comparison with large, medium, and small. There we go. These are essentials to me. These three, I love them. I feel like I just can't, I can't do my makeup without them. They're very universal. So next, I have from the next brush set, I'm just gonna show you these as a pair because honestly, they're super similar. These are also really great eyeshadow blending brushes. They are both really fluffy on the bottom and then really taper into a nice fine point. So I will use these but they're really fluffy, like, so compared to the ones that I showed you before, these ones are a little bit more dense. They have a little bit more, like, they'll pick up a little bit more. So this one, if I just want like a really nice light wash of color in my crease, I only use these for my crease because they do come to a point, so it's really nice to just get in there. So if I just want a really light wash, or I'm just really trying to blend something that's in my crease, I will use one of these. So depending on where I'm trying to get in, if it's a larger area, this one, if it's a smaller area, that one. But they're very, very similar. Again, I'm gonna show these next two brushes as a pair because they're basically, again, the same exact brushes, just one's larger and one is smaller. So these, I hope that you guys can like actually see them. So these ones, they're flat. Maybe I can get it from a side view. So these ones are flat. They're not dense where you can use it to pick up a pigment and like put it on the lid. You could, it's not gonna give you a lot of pigment though. They're a lot more fluffy than just like a regular dense flat shader brush that like I showed you before. I use them for random things. Like this morning, I'm pretty sure I picked up one of these. I just like dipped it into my highlight. So, because I already had my eyeshadow done, so I wanted to really get my highlight underneath my brow bone, and it was a nice flat shader brush. It disperses it nicely. It gets nice and tight in places, so it's good for a lot of different things. You could use it for eyeshadow. You could use it to put highlight on your cupid's bow or your nose. Weird random things like that. These fluffy flat shader brushes will come in handy. This is another brush I really, really love. And actually I should be showing you both of these at the same time because they're basically the same exact thing. Both from Morphe, different brush sets, and these are called pencil brushes. So they are very flat. This one is a little bit more dense. This one's a little bit more fluffy. So again, it's just nice to have both of them. I really, really like these if I'm going to do a cut crease or something where I just want a really precise line. If I'm doing eyeshadow where I just have a little bit of dark in the corner, I like to pick it up and kind of put it on with this, and then maybe I'll blend it out with something else. These are really nice to get under your lower lash line with some eyeshadow. This next one is kind of a random one. It's kind of like a love-hate. The reason I say that is because when I first bought it, I loved it. Loved it. This is called a custom blending brush from the brand CoverFX. So this is probably one of my most expensive brushes that I own. It's very short bristles, flat on the top, and very dense. It's not fluffy at all. Like you can see I'm moving the bristles, you can hardly even see it. So this is one that works really well for, and originally when I had bought it, I was wearing a lot of the Makeup Forever Ultra HD Stick Foundation. So this foundation brush is really great if you have a thick, creamy foundation. So something that's maybe a stick foundation, maybe something that's moussey, something that you're not necessarily gonna go like this on your face with. This is better to kind of like stipple and kind of just move around the face because it is so dense that if you just use it with a liquid foundation, it's just gonna smear it everywhere. It's not really gonna put it somewhere. I like to keep this, I like to have it around because sometimes when I get clients, they do have a thicker foundation that you can't really work your beauty blender into, which is pretty much what I always put foundation on with is a beauty blender. I don't prefer foundation to be put on with brushes like ever, other than stick foundations or ones that I can't move it around with my beauty blender. Then I'll maybe pick something like this up. This one is a Real Techniques brush. So this is a brush that you could buy from Walgreens, Ulta, pretty much just your local drugstore. I used to use it for foundation, then I started using it for contour. Now I kind of just use it for whatever I want, whenever I need to use it. It's fluffy yet dense at the same time. It's not as dense as the last one I showed you. If you're a person who likes to put foundation on with a brush, this one may be good based on the consistency of your foundation. If you're a person who likes to put foundation on with a brush, this one may be good based on the consistency of your foundation. Another foundation brush that I have is from the brand Face Secrets. I do believe this is also another Walgreens brand. It was one of my very, very first brushes as a young kid. And I did buy it for foundation, and I used to, you know, it's one of those, like, this is one of those paintbrush looking foundation brushes, you know, that you used to just like paint it on with. So I would use this brush to maybe because I like to mix foundation, so a lot of times I'll mix it on the back of my hand, and then I just pick it up with my beauty blender, but I feel like sometimes my beauty blender can kind of soak it up, so maybe this would be good to take it, or maybe even to just like stick it in something. If you're cleaning this every day, paint it on your face, put the rest on with your beauty blender maybe. It would be good for that. I used to use it for highlight. It disperses highlight very well. These I'm going to show as a whole because they are all the same exact brush, flat angled brushes. This one is actually an Anastasia eyebrow one, so it's more dense. It puts on product better for her pomade, and then it has a little spoolie on the end. This one is fluffier, so this one I don't like to put my eyeliner on with it. A lot of people do, so maybe this would be good for eyeliner. But I also like to use these flat, oh, here's another one. I like to use these flat brushes, this one in particular, to put on after I've done my eyebrows. I like to clean it up with some concealer, so I really like these flat angled brushes for it. I can get a great shape with them. I have a few lip brushes here, which I don't necessarily use. I don't really like lip brushes. I pretty much put it on with the applicator that my lip comes with, and that's what I prefer, but I do have them for clients for sanitary reasons. The last ones I have are these weird brushes that I've never used and probably never will. They're just these angled, I don't even know if you can see the bristles because they're so thin. I literally don't think you can see it. But they're supposed to be eyeliner brushes. I would never use these for eyeliner, so, but if you do, that's what these would be used for. You can use them for maybe special effects. Oh no, I did use these for Halloween for special effects makeup to put like little dots in places and maybe a cut crease. Like, I don't know what else this would be good for, but yeah. So this is my makeup brush collection, what I use each one of them for. I know they're not all technically used for what are supposed to be used for what I use them for, but that's the cool thing about makeup is that you can kind of just, there's no rules, you can do whatever you want. So again, I will link all of the brushes down below. Most of them are brush sets, but yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys found this helpful. I hope that you learned something cool today, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.